Let's go back to Peru for a moment and discuss on the basics based on the Truth Commission results. 69,000 people dead in 20 years of conflict between 1990 and 2000. According to the Truth Commission, 8,558 missing persons, over 150,000 people internally displaced. We have consolidated the data of the missing after the Truth Commission, and we are already counting on 15,000, or 15,000 and counting. That's like because people are missing, going missing now, is because the Truth Commission has a very short mandate and was able to compile so much information on so many people. But the real number is much more. So let's look at what have we done in judicial terms, right, in retributive terms in the country. Here's the distribution of cases as they are now. Preliminary investigation, 91. Preliminary investigation, not even an indictment, or 91. Preliminary hearings that people have been indicted, 23. Proceedings, 13. Judgment, 6. Archives, 6. And there's no information on 20. That's just to begin. Inter-American Court has passed 23 judgments against the Peruvian state, okay, for a number of cases. But three relate to forced disappearances. 13 people are involved as victims in those 3 cases, of which 10 are la cantuta, of which 4 have been identified. 59 cases were presented by the Truth Commission to the prosecutor's office to say, okay, now we have advanced investigations, please do something with them. 26 of them, up to last year, preliminary investigations. The other half in proceedings. 7 with judgment, 4 of which are under appeal. So the question is, are we getting somewhere there? Are we getting kind of the drift of what is going on? We have to go beyond all these penal codes and legal obligations to look for more restorative approaches to this problem. We need to understand and define the universe of the missing. How many are there? Who are we looking for? Otherwise, what strategy can we devise? We need an individual file per missing person. We need to collect ante-mortem data. How was this person at the time of disappearance? How was this person wearing? Had a golden tooth, a broken bone, whatever. This information is totally basic and allows the family to say a piece of truth that have never been spoken, and to exercise memory on something very specific, not on an event, but on a person that is no longer there. We have to empower relatives, through this process. The whole fact of exclusion is at the root of the fact of disappearance. Those who get disappeared, those who goes missing, are the excluded. And if they are not the excluded, we make them to be excluded in order to disappear them, to justify the disappearance. Therefore, we have to empower them through inclusion, exactly the reverse of what actually happened with them. That's the whole point, isn't it? Ante-mortem data collection is very powerful, primarily because it focuses memories on very specific things, on the individual loss. You're talking about the disappearance of your relative. You're not talking about a general event, what happened to my community. You are able to think about what happened to this specific person. It's not a literary account of what actually happened to my community over the years. It will happen to my loved one specifically. And these persons feel reassured as well because they are heard regarding this specific event, and it's a way to give an importance to this individual. This individual did exist. It's a tangible memory in a way. It's totally different with a general testimony on violations of any kind in general terms. We normally give them a copy of this ante-mortem form to the families, and they feel symbolically repaired up to a certain extent, in as much as receiving an account, their own account, but they can actually touch it, even they cannot read it. In communities like ours, all what is on paper is very important, even if you cannot read. An identity card, whatever, it's a sense of belonging to a state that has excluded you throughout. This is very important as well because it transforms people into protagonists and not spectators. All retributive approaches tend to dismiss completely the issue of the victims. They do not participate in the thing. We are doing to serve them, but justice will not serve them because a sentence is not the same thing that having the remains in order to actually bury them and maybe give justice on top of it. So restitution versus reparation and that. We want to transform victims into survivors, survivors into citizens. That is the primary goal. There's no other goal there. We have to really re-citizenize. The word doesn't exist, but this, I think it's very clear. We have to transform into actors and not subjects of this process. They have to be empowered in order to participate. So, states in transition, post-conflict states, such as my country, for example, should give as much power to civil society as possible for accountable transparency, to deal with the search, to deal with restitution of missing persons to the families. It's nothing very popular. Has been happening in Guatemala, for whatever reason, has been happening in Argentina as well. We should also make a call to civil society to also abandon these retributive approaches. In countries like mine, civil society is also very obsessed with retribution, thinking that this government or the other should actually go in its entirety to jail. And they, without knowing, they're pushing for categorical identification, but not individual identification. I want all these bodies as evidence, but not as names, not as restitution as who they were. So what is this whole talk about at the end of the day? Recognize that the search of the missing is a humanitarian endeavor. That's a primary thing. A humanitarian endeavor that is attempting primarily to restitute, that is complementary to any kind of reparation. Restitution, in the case of missing persons, is a primary element of any reparatory process. You repay when you know the extent of the damage. How can you repay if you don't restitute? Missings are not better or worse than people killed or tortured or raped, but it's different. It's a permanent crime. And as long as you do not resolve that piece of that ends with restitution, you cannot really repay. So it's totally complementary. We have to address the need of the relatives and the right to know. They want to know. Doesn't mean that all the missing will reappear, even dead, but they have to know. We need to include families in all these investigations. We cannot let them out. They have to become actors of these processes. And so far, we leave them out. Crime of forced disappearance doesn't prescribe. It's a crime against humanity according to, well, the ICC statutes. It doesn't prescribe. Therefore, justice will get to where it has to get, and will get whoever it has to get, whenever it has to get it. But the family cannot become a hostage of justice. In 25 years in Peru, we have identified 1.3% of the missing, where we're still attempting to put whoever number of people in jail. That won't happen. But no one thing will happen, not the other. Needless to say, in Peru, this retributive agenda hasn't worked. I showed you, I think, enough figures to prove that. Forced disappearance is a permanent crime. And while the need of society to have justice made, serving society, society cannot subject, let's say, a minority of a society to justice to be made on their behalf, and saying, okay, listen, maybe you will not find your brother, but I will put in jail somebody. Do you know, for example, in Peru, we have won the first case of forced disappearance without body. The case, Castillo Paz, a case that went to Inter-American Court as well, that has been won, but there's no body. So you got the people in jail, but the body has never appeared. Because these people who actually disappeared, this guy, who they put him in the trunk of a car, of a police car, seen by everybody, the body did not appear. And they're already sentenced. And they don't care about saying where they put the body. They're already sentenced. So is that a victory for whom? For the family? For society in general? It has been hailed as, wow, we won the first case of forced disappearance. Fantastic. Justice has been made for society. But what about the individual family, the victims? They become also hostages of the same society that is requesting justice for it as a whole. So, on the issue of the right to know, as long as we do not close these wounds, some people, and so the people tell you that, let's forget, the wounds, we are reopening the wounds. No, we are not reopening anything. The wounds are not closed. That's the bottom line of it. We are creating a culture of hatred. We're creating people that will grow with this seed of instability for so many years. And so many conflicts will come, and so many shining paths with another name, and so many other horrible things will come to haunt us for not dealing with our own past. So, thank you. Any questions?